For our next example, we have two premises and a conclusion again. If it is cold outside, then my car won't start. So it is cold outside. We are going to use our P. It is cold outside. Then my car won't start. We're going to call that our Q. Okay, so my premise 1 is going to be P implies Q. All right, premise 2, my car didn't start. So that would be Q. And then our conclusion is, therefore, it is cold outside. So therefore, remember we used that triangle of 3 dots. It is cold outside, which is P. Okay, so we have P and Q in all of the different variations of the true-false combination. My premise 2 is actually already done. Premise 2 is Q. So I'm just going to put premise 2 right on top so I know what I'm talking about. I also want to do premise 1, which is if P then Q, and that means I'm going to use my first two truth columns. The conditional statement is only false if the antecedent is true but the consequent is false. So if true then true, that's true. If true then false, that makes the whole statement false. If false then true, that is true, and if false then false, that is true. Alright, so I have premise 1 and premise 2, and now I have to put them together. So I'm going to write premise 1 and premise 2 here. So that means I'm going to take the purple column, I'm going to put that in parentheses, and I'm going to join it together with a conjunction, premise 2. So the conjunction is true only when both are true. So I'm looking at column 3 and column 2. The and, so we have true and true, that is true. False and false, that is false. True and true, that is true. True and false, that's false. They both need to be true in order for it to be true. So next I need to do my argument here. So for my full argument, I need to take the premises and I have to make sure that they actually do imply the conclusion. So if all of these truth values are true all the way down, then I know it's a valid statement. If there is at least one part where it could possibly be false, then the whole argument is false. So to take the premises, I'm going to take P implies Q and Q. I'm going to put a big parentheses around that. And I'm trying to take that and implies the conclusion. Now my conclusion was P. So my premises, the whole premises, let me erase some of these old highlights. So my premises that I'm using right now is the 4th column. Okay, that it has both premises 1 and premises 2. And I'm trying to say that that premises implies my conclusion, which is P, which is my 1st column. So when I do this, I'm taking if the 4th column, then the 1st column. So if true, then true. That's true. If false, then true. That's true because if the antecedent is false, then the whole conditional statement is true. If true, then false, okay, that's not okay. If true, then false, that tells you that the whole conditional statement is false. And then if false, then false, that's true. So notice that the last column is not all true. Not, okay? Because we have one problem where it's false. So because there's one spot where it's false, we say the entire argument is a fallacy. And you might be like, well, Miss Lay, only one of them's false. It doesn't really matter. If there is one particular situation where it's not going to lead to a true statement in the conclusion, then the whole argument is invalid and therefore it is a fallacy. So if you go back to the original premises, if it is cold outside, then my car won't start. Well, my car didn't start. So you can't say that therefore it is necessarily cold outside. There might be another reason why your car didn't start. Maybe someone pulled some wires and made it not start. Or maybe you have a fuse out. There might be a lot of reasons why your car didn't start. You can't necessarily say it's because of the cold. So the conclusion doesn't tell you that the antecedent is true. Okay, so that would be the fallacy.